There is a kind of pain that almost no one prepares you for. It's not the pain of losing one person. It's the pain of watching everyone slowly disappear. The friends who stop calling, the family who grows distant, the people you thought would stand beside you forever, quietly stepping back, one by one, until you look around and realize you are standing completely alone. Marcus Aurelius knew this pain intimately. By the final years of his life, he had buried most of his children. His wife was gone. The mentors who shaped him, gone. The brother he ruled beside, gone. Even his closest friends, the men he trusted with the empire itself, had either died or betrayed him. The most powerful man on earth died, largely surrounded by soldiers in a military tent, far from everyone he had ever loved. And yet, in his private writings, there is no bitterness, no collapse, no desperate grasping for people to fill the silence. There is something else entirely. Today, I want to show you what Marcus Aurelius understood about being left, and why his response to abandonment may be the most powerful piece of Stoic wisdom most people never hear about. Let's begin. To understand how Marcus handled loss, you first have to understand how much of it he actually faced. History remembers him as emperor, philosopher, the man behind Meditations. What history mentions far less is just how much that man buried. He and his wife, Faustina, had at least 13 children together. Only a handful survived into adulthood. Plague swept through Rome during his reign and took entire families overnight, including members of his own household. His closest childhood friends, the ones who studied philosophy beside him as boys, scattered or died as the decades wore on. His adoptive brother and co-emperor, Lucius Verus, who ruled at his side for years, died suddenly, leaving Marcus to carry the empire alone. And in his final years, even trusted generals turned against him. One of his most loyal commanders, Avidius Cassius, attempted to seize the throne while Marcus was away at war, a betrayal from someone Marcus had personally elevated and trusted. By any normal measure, Marcus Aurelius had every reason to become a hardened, isolated, bitter old man, surrounded by power, abandoned by people. But that is not what happened. And the reason it didn't happen reveals something most people get completely backwards about loneliness. Here is the first thing Marcus understood, and it is the foundation for everything else in this video. People leaving you is not evidence that something is wrong with you. It is evidence that you are alive in a world where everything is temporary. Marcus wrote constantly about impermanence, not as a depressing fact to be avoided, but as the basic operating condition of reality itself. He wrote, "Observe constantly that all things take place by change, and accustom yourself to consider that the nature of the universe loves nothing so much as to change the things which are and to make new things like them." Read that carefully. Change is not a tragedy interrupting your life. Change is the actual structure of life. People are not meant to stay forever. Seasons end. Relationships shift. Death arrives for everyone eventually, often unevenly, often unfairly, often far too soon. Marcus didn't find peace by pretending this wasn't painful. He found peace by refusing to treat it as some kind of personal injustice, as though the universe owed him permanence and had broken its promise. This is the difference between grief and victimhood. Grief says, this loss hurts, and that pain is real. Victimhood says, this shouldn't have happened to me, and someone or something is to blame for my suffering. Marcus allowed himself grief. What he refused was victimhood. There is a second, even harder truth buried in Marcus's writing, one that most people resist when they first encounter it. He believed that depending on other people for your sense of stability was, itself, a kind of trap. Not because relationships don't matter. Marcus clearly loved deeply. His writing about his wife, his teachers, his adopted father Antoninus drips with genuine affection and gratitude. But he refused to build his internal peace on a foundation that other people controlled. He wrote, "He who fears death either fears the loss of sensation or a different kind of sensation. But if you shall have no sensation, neither will you have any sense of evil." And elsewhere, he extends this same logic to loss in general. What is gone cannot harm you through its absence. Only your mind's resistance to the absence creates the suffering. This sounds cold on first read. It isn't. What Marcus is describing is the difference between loving people and depending on people for your own internal stability. You can love someone with your whole heart and still maintain a self that does not collapse the moment they leave. In fact, Marcus would argue that internal stability is what allows you to love people well in the first place, without suffocating them, without resenting them, without quietly demanding that they save you from your own emptiness. When everyone leaves, the question Marcus asks is not, how do I get them back or replace them? The question is, who am I when no one is here to witness it? This is where most people's Stoic education stops, at the idea of detachment. But Marcus goes one step further, and this is the part almost nobody talks about. He believed that being left in some strange way is an opportunity, not a comfortable one, not one you'd ever choose, but an opportunity nonetheless. Because as long as people surround you, family, friends, admirers, a crowd, it is almost impossible to know who you actually are underneath all of that attention. You perform versions of yourself for each relationship, the version your parents expect, the version your friends laugh with, the version your colleagues respect. All of those versions are real, in their way, but none of them is the whole of you. It is only in solitude, sometimes solitude you never asked for, solitude forced on you by loss, that you finally meet the version of yourself that exists independent of any audience. Marcus wrote about retreating into himself as a discipline, a place no external circumstance could touch. Nowhere can a man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul. This was not metaphorical comfort. This was literal practice. When the people around Marcus disappeared, through death, betrayal, or distance, he did not experience that emptiness as proof that he had nothing left. He experienced it as access to the one thing that had been with him the entire time, underneath every relationship, himself. There is a practical dimension to this that I want you to actually carry with you. If you are in a season where people are leaving, through death, distance, or choice, here is what Marcus's framework would ask you to do. First, let yourself grieve completely and honestly. Do not perform Stoicism by pretending you feel nothing. Marcus felt deeply. He simply refused to let the feeling become the entirety of his identity. Second, ask yourself which parts of your peace have quietly become dependent on specific people staying in your life. Not to shame yourself for this. It is deeply human, but to notice it. Awareness is the first step toward rebuilding a foundation that does not collapse with every departure. Third, use the silence that loss creates. Don't rush to fill it with new relationships, new distractions, new noise. Sit inside it long enough to hear what is actually there, underneath the absence. Marcus did not avoid this silence. He went looking for it, deliberately, in his private writing, night after night, for decades. And finally, remember that the people who leave do not erase what they gave you while they were here. Marcus never wrote bitterly about the people he lost, even those who betrayed him. He wrote about lessons learned from his teachers, gratitude for his family, even measured fairness toward Avidius Cassius, the general who tried to overthrow him. When that general was killed by his own soldiers before Marcus could even respond, historical accounts describe Marcus expressing something closer to sorrow than satisfaction, wishing he could have shown the man mercy instead. This is the final piece of the Stoic response to abandonment. It does not require hatred of those who leave, even when they leave badly. Because hatred, Marcus understood, just creates a different kind of dependency, a bitter one, where your peace still depends on someone else, just inverted into resentment instead of need. True freedom from loss isn't pretending that people never mattered. It's loving what they gave you, accepting that they're gone, and refusing to let either of those truths destroy the self that remains standing afterward. Marcus Aurelius died, largely alone, by the standards most people fear most. But every account of his final days describes the same thing his entire life had described: composure, clarity, a man fully present with whatever remained, rather than haunted by what had already gone. If you are standing in your own version of that silence right now, watching people leave, feeling the weight of an emptiness you didn't choose, I want you to remember this. You are not broken because you are alone. You are simply standing exactly where every human being eventually stands at some point in their life. The difference is what you choose to do with the silence once you're there. If this video meant something to you, share it with someone who might be standing in that same silence right now. And if you want to keep building a mind strong enough to stand on its own, subscribe to Stoic Insights 8. This is only the beginning. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Nowhere can a man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." I'll see you in the next one.